An age ago, the beating heart of our people was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars, for out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled, our heart has returned, and the world will burn.
I don't know why we always get dropped out by that, but anyway, ignore that last part. It's not only on Indiegogo; it's on Fund My Comic for Crom the Destroyer. How you
Yes,
doing?
I'm doing great. I have to clip that little bit. Anybody wants to know, I'm clipping that bit from my trailers. I just got to get to it. But the campaign did open today on Fund My Comic. The link, I should give you the link, John. Marcus already put it in the chat. All right, thank you very much, Marcus. If you're listening to my stream, it's in the description as well for anybody.
Yeah, I put it in the description, and I put it in the chat as well. Is it live?
It is live today. Yes, we are live today. Already got. I'll say this right out the gate because I like to challenge things head on. But I already got some pushback from people on Twitter saying, "Why are you doing this?" Because your campaign is already late. Well, I'm doing it because there are people who have asked me, "Where can I get the book?" And you can't get it done in Indiegogo anymore. We are still planning to publish. I literally got the last. Layout pages from my artist for the last 8 pages yesterday, and working with Albino Joe to do a final edit. We got a colorist working, we got letterer working, we got everything on track to get it published, and that's why I figured I'd throw this back up just to make sure anybody who wanted to have a chance to buy just a graphic novel, nothing else, just the graphic novel, can have the chance to do so. So that's why we're doing it, and I'll share some of the beautiful art in case anybody has not seen it before, because there's a lot of art on the Indiegogo page, not so much on the Fund My Comic page, but I'll be working on that as I go. But of course, I think that anybody who is going to be buying the book at this point is going to be from word of mouth from me directly. So there's some of the art that goes along with it if you want to throw that up, John. But we have some of the spectacular art that goes along with Crom the Destroyer. I love this stuff that it's basically pen drawing what the original art was for this stuff, for the posters that we had, which goes along with some of the stories. But there's page 1, just in case anybody wants to know. If you're watching it on Fun or on John's live stream, that's page 1 right there of the book. That's not a poster. That's the first page of the book. So
right, you have two different artists, right?
Yeah, we got Jim O'Reilly did the first part of the chapter. Then he had to bow out. So then we got Nick Axe to do the rest of it. And Nick's stuff is, I'll show somebody. Let's just stop this for a second. I'll give a little preview of Nick's stuff as well to make sure everybody knows that his stuff is just as intricate and beautiful as Jim stuff, but we don't have it colored. This
I don't know if I'm talking out of turn, but you just had a series of misfortunes. You know, the comic is coming out. You're honoring everything from Indiegogo. It just took longer from just some.
Oh yeah. So just anybody wants to know, the point was that we came around our original timeline because they had 3 artists, each of them lined up to do one of the chapters all at the same time. And that was why we had a short date in order to get the art done. First artist had some personal problems, so he couldn't finish chapter 1. Second artist completely noped out on me. And the third artist, which is Nick Axe, took over the entire rest of the book, so 72 pages, and he is intricate to like you're looking at his work right now. This is beautiful stuff, and he takes his time to get it done. And I wasn't going to skimp on the art because everybody bought it on beautiful art of Jim O'Reilly, so I wanted to make sure.
I asked Nick if he because I love his it just looks like it's perfect for barbarians and stuff. So I have like a mythological story, and I just can't afford him, otherwise I would. He's that good.
Just in case anybody wants to know the credentials of Nick, he used to be an illustrator. He used to own an animation company. So you know this is the level of professionalism that you get with Nick. So he's really invested in it, and yeah, that's what we got. Like I said, the graphic novel is 72 pages, so you're paying $25 still. It's only $25 still, and you pay shipping, but $25 for the book, and it's 72 pages, and you get a complete story. And this will be hopefully Crom the Destroyer #1. But moving forward, as I also indicated on X, moving forward, none of my books will go to pre-sale until the art is done. I love my artists. They're great and all, and they produce some really spectacular stuff, but we're working with indie work here. So, you know, sometimes people's schedules get in the way. Sometimes things happen. So from now on, art's going to be done before I put up a book on any platform for sale after we finish Crom the Destroyer. Just to let everybody know.
Yeah, I for not to take away from you because this is your launch, but Patriarch #1 is going to be complete before I even launch the campaign. You know, it's just a way. I think it's just a good way to repair all, you know, all of crowdfunding. You know, it's got. I'm not going to go into the particulars, but people are getting a little gun shy of backing. And I think the way to repair that is if you are able to make your comic first, I think people should do it. You know, I crowdfunded my first 2 books beforehand. I was on time, but now you're waiting. Now you don't realize you're waiting. So that's the beauty is I'm getting the books done before we launch. So that's, you know what I mean? Like you had 3 artists all lined up. They're each going to do a third. You did nothing wrong. And then life gets in the way. Artists backed out. Look at this. I love this. Yeah. This reminds me of like Nick's art looks like Barry Windsor Smith and John Buscema had a baby. Had an art baby. Look at that.
So yeah.
And this is going to be colored, right?
Well, yes, the only thing that you can get on the Fund My Comic is the colored graphic novel. On the original campaign, you were able to purchase the black and white artist edition, which you would just see the pencils and overlay, of course, everything onto that except for the colors and the inks. You know, you get obviously the story. But yeah, what we have on Fund My Comic is just anybody who wants to buy, you know, you're at the tail end here. Anybody wants to buy the graphic novel. So it will be colored, yes.
Yeah. You know, this looks good. I can't wait. It looks so good. I want to address people in the chat. When can I buy it? Eldridge fan, it is live right now on Fund My Comic. Can they go to Indiegogo and get it, or is that closed?
No, Indiegogo has been closed, so you can go to Fund My Comic and buy it there if you just want the graphic novel.
Right. Yeah. I saw somebody giving you gruff, and I typed in a big long response, and then I said RJ can defend himself, but I don't think you're doing anything wrong. The art, like you said, you're down to the last couple of pages, and people are interested. You know, there you go, guys. Back it. I know RJ. I'll stake my reputation. Nobody feels bad. Nobody feels worse than RJ does. And he's just, Nick stepped up. He's doing all these pages. He's, as you can see, his art is spectacular. He's slow, but that's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? He's a good artist. He's a good artist. And Jim O'Reilly is a great artist too. Somebody I would like to work with in the future. Just life gets in the way. I know Jim had some hardships. That's not my information to reveal, but I was talking to him, and he right when something bad happened, he was like, "Luckily we didn't start. That would have driven me nuts to repay for pages or something." Again, I'm talking too much.
I have a super chat here. You bring that up?
Yes. I why can't I find it? Oh, is it
To the very bottom?
Okay, I thought it was on my. Okay, T.M. Bailey, off topic, but I have to ask RJ, what do you think of right wingers who say truth doesn't matter, only power? Personally, I think it's a foolish and postmodern way of thinking.
Oh, absolutely. It is a foolish and postmodern way of thinking. Basically, again, the whole point, what I always go on about is heroism, and how heroism is generated from virtue. Virtue is the only true means of power that we actually have. The mechanical definition of virtue is the power to accomplish one's ends, and that's the ends of a human being. So your telos, and you do that through your free will. They want to decouple. That's what modernism and postmodernism especially try to decouple power from virtue, and it doesn't work. That's why they always must accrue more and more power, because they're trying to move an immovable object with insufficient power. So they think that the more power they can accrue, the more chance they'll have to move this thing. They won't, because they won't be virtuous. That's pure and simple the way it works, and they don't understand reality. So there's that. So thank you very much, Bailey. Very good question. On the other point, though, just to let everybody know as well, I think honestly, with the artists, and I understand the trouble with the artists that we're having right now. And I call it trouble just because it's the fact that we're working in an indie space. And here's the thing. I think I would love to go back to, let's say, 1980s Marvel. So would you, John, I'm sure. And to have something come out every month and have it on time and all that kind of stuff. We don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world where we have artists that can do this type of beautiful art sitting in the background here, which is from Crom the Destroyer, who don't have a place for people who want their art. And at the same time, they don't have the editorial oversight of something like a Marvel Comics and Jim Shooter to be able to become someone who can pump out pages once a month. So I think really the new direction that indie comics needs to go to, we're talking about North American comics here. I'm not talking about manga or anything else. They have their own separate way of doing things. The North American comic industry, according to indie publishing, is going to have to be in the future, I think, either artists own stuff that they're going to do it themselves, or if not, it's going to be somebody who has the editorial know-how to get things together so that they know it's going to get out there and make money. Because you can have an artist and you can have the best intentions in the world, you can be the best artist in the world, but if you can't get the book done, then that's the problem. So they're going to have wise people, I think, started to fill up this space, people that know what they're doing and be able to deal with the intricacies of life of so many people that you're working with all over the world, especially the artists, in order to get the book done.
Yeah, I was just about to say this, but Vaz took the words right out of my mouth. French artists, and I'm going to include Italian artists too, usually release a 42, 60-page story every year, or two, if not longer. American monthly comics are just spoiled. What do they call it? I always say B'nai Gesserit from the Dune, but it's, what is it?
Bon Dynasty, or is it? I can't remember.
The French comic. Yeah, I think, like, last time I talked to Nick, he was talking about that he would like to do like maybe one oversized graphic novel. Maybe I'm misremembering if it was Nick or not, your artist. And I said, that's a great thing to do. Like you look at like Aaron Lopresti, he's doing that Barbarian Adventures, maybe once a year. And if you do crowdfunding and you cutting out the middleman, I think that's really good. But we don't have the infrastructure. My whole long box comics is just me and whatever artist I hire, and I hire another guy to color. So the way I'm going to work around it is I got a bunch of scripts to my artists and they're all working on it. So I got like 7 stories in various spaces of completion, and I got a couple other stories on deck with other artists, like in the future. Like when one finishes, another one's going to jump in, and I hope I can keep up a production schedule, but there's no way it's going to be monthly. But the only person who's even close is Eric July, and he's got a staff. He's hiring a whole bullpen of people, and even he's not monthly. So I don't know. I don't think monthly is I would love to be monthly, but I don't think it's feasible anymore. Oh, there we go.
Some nice, again, beautiful art from Nick X. Just amazing stuff. This is the panel I always talk about when I tell people. I told Nick, yeah, just throw an ancient city in the background. He's like, oh yeah, RJ, just put an ancient city in the background. Sure, no problem. I can do that. It's like that's not going to take.
Did you didn't describe this? You just gave him what he needed for the importance of this panel, and he.
No, I did describe this. So the thing was, it's fun, kind of working with different artists. I have to say, because Jim is very much like Renzo. He wants as much information as possible so that he can have layouts and everything else. So I had my script written for the various artists, and when I gave it to Nick to finish off the stuff that Jim was supposed to do, Nick was not used to that kind of layout and that kind of description. So for chapter 2, I gave him what you're looking at right here, all that stuff. I would describe the entire thing. I would give it panel by panel. This is what I want. Whereas when we get chapter 3, he has a lot more, because I revamped chapter 3 for Nick. He has a lot more space to be creative, and he did so in chapter 3, especially as we get closer and closer to the end. So he's very much, if anybody wants to know, my panel layout style is very much for this book anyways, is John Buscema, and it's 1980s Conan the Barbarian. By the way, John Buscema, he had a very, very fixed pattern of panel layout for those Conan books. I mean, extremely fixed. He only had like 3 different combinations, if I remember correctly, but he used them superbly, almost as fixed as something like Keith Giffen with his 9-panel layout, quite honestly. But when I started to lay these things down and do the panel layout for the first 2 chapters and got Nick to do that, he's like, can I have some leeway with chapter 3? I was like, absolutely. Because Nick very much loves, we'll say Neil Adams, or who else does he try to channel with his art? What's his name?
Art Adams is one of his heroes.
True. What's the name? Alan Davis. And Neil Adams.
Yes, we've talked about that. Yeah, Alan
right.
Davis.
Because those 2 artists very much play with panel style and try to ramp up action and basically the mood of your reader through panel layout and how they try to invoke emotion in your reader as they're reading the story, which is extremely complex. I'll put it that way. So I love what he did with that in the 3rd chapter.
I love that the tunnel all the way in the background. I just love that. I don't know. I love this panel. I can't wait to read this comic. RJ has delivered on every comic he's endeavored to create, so I faith this will become. Yeah. I know. RJ, believe me, RJ and I have talked about this. He's, just he feels so bad. It's gonna come out. It's coming out. Don't worry. With the fall of Diamond Distributor, a lot of independent publishers are probably vanished or on the death. Yes, I reached out to a couple of small indie guys about getting my comics in comic store, and they all said, let's wait 6 months to see if we're still even in business, and we'll talk then. That's how bad it is. So I don't know about you, RJ, but I've been talking to Vaughn Coleman about going to conventions. I got to get off my butt and start going to conventions.
This is another picture that I had shared on X before. Which people were asking me last week about the sorcery and different kinds of sorcery, because I said there wasn't one kind of sorcery in this world. It's I call it quote unquote sorcery. Very much in the vein of Conan the Barbarian. There's a bunch of Conan stories where you basically have people that invent things scientifically, and you have golems and stuff like that. So you get various forms of it. So anyway. I love this. This is a
Yeah.
wizard's battle, basically.
Oh yeah, I've seen this so many times. I never noticed the little guy in the bottom left. So this is
Yeah.
two wizards conjuring something to battle it out.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. I love that. I love that. All right. Like I said, I can't wait. I got to look back at my Indiegogo, see what I ordered. I think I ordered one in color and one in black and white.
John, I think you're getting everything, no matter what you order.
Okay. And yes, this is not an April Fool's gag. I don't know about you, RJ, but I avoid the internet on April Fools because I fall for everything. Because I always forget, especially now I'm working overnight, so I don't know what day of the week it is. You know what I mean? So I just turn on the internet and I'm like, oh, William Shatner really shook hands with a Martian. Oh my God. You know, and I believe this stupid stuff. So I hate April Fool's Day. This is not an April Fool's joke. RJ is really launching on Fund My Comic. He's got 8 more pages to be drawn, and then he's shipping out. He's shipping out. So, do you have a schedule? Do you know when do you think you're going to be?
Well, like I said, there's more than just the line art to be done. We have 8 more pages of line art left. We still, the colorist is working, the inker is working, and the letterer is working as well. Plus, before we get into everything, like as we ship them off, I have Albino Joe from Michael Bancroft's channel. If anybody remembers Albino Joe from probably like 5 years ago now, Joe's had some things to do in between now and then, so now he's back and doing editing for indie books, and I was
Cool.
lucky enough to get him to do some editing for me. So I'm working with him, trying to get things ready so that he can show me where I make mistakes, which is what an editor does. And so we got a lot of things to do in order to get it into printable format still. I was trying to, the problem being I couldn't get everybody to work at the same time, just because of how the schedule came out with the line art, because we didn't do it chronologically, as in page 1, 2, 3, 4, because again, I had 3 artists, and Nick was working on his chapter 3, and Jim was working on his chapter 1, and my artist for chapter 2 was supposed to be working on his chapter 2. So what we eventually got was Nick doing chapter 3, and then I said, well, my artist bailed for chapter 2. Can you go back and do chapter 2? So he stopped chapter 3, went back and did chapter 2. And then Jim ran into problems with chapter 1 and his problems in life. And I said, okay, can you stop chapter 2 and go back and do chapter 1 for the last 10 pages? So I could not do them chronologically, which is what you need when you're working on these things, just because, especially with the colors and things like that, there's a lot of development I put into my books anyways. I'm sure other people might be able to do so, but
so Zach 10 wants to know, is this a series or is this just a one shot?
Well, let me put it this way, Zach Dan, I want to desperately make this a series. In what format, I'm not entirely sure. Problem was, and it's only gotten worse as to when this campaign came out. The campaign did not do as well as I thought it would. That being said, I am going to find a way to continue this storyline, whether or not it's going to be in graphic novel format. I don't think so. It might be some floppy comics, it might be standalone stories, because again, I've done print stories for this that have already been published for Crom the Destroyer. There is stuff, Crom the Destroyer stuff, already published in Iron Age magazine. Number 2 was one of the separate stories that goes along with this universe and this character, whose name, well, we'll get into that can of worms right now, but we will continue it. And this is one of my passions. I'll have to say, this is one of the things that I'm willing to lose money on. Quite honestly, I can't lose that much money, but I'm willing to put some blood, sweat, and tears into Crom the Destroyer, because I've always wanted to do this.
Well, first off, let's address this super chat. Von Drack, thank you, $20. I think that's going on RJ's channel. Thanks for all your thoughtful videos.
Thank you very much.
Work. Love it. Keep it coming.
And says, thanks for all my thoughtful videos. Yeah. I was just reading it. I was talking over you, John. But yeah, I thank you very much. Thank you. I think that the best thing, again, on the other side of my channel is culture war issues, and I think the best way to deal with culture war issues is to be creative.
Yeah. I think talking about the culture war, okay, that'll get you so far. Doing something about it. Talk is cheap. Everybody, go out and like make these comics. Like my comics are conservative, but it's not like I'm going, buy my conservative comics. We're gonna fight the cult. I just want to make good comics, and then people can be like, oh, this is kind of like this guy's. I can tell he's a conservative, but I don't want to beat you over the head with it. You know what I mean? Just make good stuff. It'll seep into the consciousness. I hope, if enough people do it. Like, I'm not saying I could do it. Geez, my audience is too tiny for that.
I have to thank, you're not going to see a whole lot of Jim's art within the book, but like I said, because he got to about the middle of chapter 1 and then had to deal with problems in his life. So it's going to be a majority Nick Axe art, but for character design, these are character designs that Jim and I worked on, and this is basically a sketch Jim did for character design. I said, we're going to do more than just character design with the sketch. And it was just beautiful stuff that he was able to do. I got it colored. I got it, he inked it for me and everything else. It's like, this is the kind of stuff that I think moves forward. Let's put it that way. Moves forward the sword and sorcerer or sword and sandal genre at least one step.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear my cat screaming. Every time my wife goes out, that cat, he's just such a mama's boy. There was a good question over here. Of course, you love Conan. What do you think of Howard's other creations like Solomon Kane? The movies didn't do that character justice. The first Conan movie, I'll say, that was my introduction to Conan. My older brother was a big Frazetta art, he loved Frank Frazetta, had the poster and stuff. So when the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie came out, he dragged me, I was a little kid, to go see Conan. So that was Conan to me. So I always thought Conan was a big dummy, until I started reading the comics, find out he's actually pretty smart. But that's all I read. What do you think of the other Conan characters?
Well, you're going to open a can of worms here again with asking me about Conan or Howard characters. The way I read Howard's stories, so we'll put it that way. I don't think this is necessarily canon, but I firmly believe this about what Howard was doing and how he created his stories, and I can see a strain of this within the stories themselves. I think that he was one of those first people who actually built an entire universe around these stories, and most of his characters, because I won't say all of his characters, but most of his well-known characters all exist, as far as I'm concerned, in one actual reality and continuous history. Whereas Kull would be an ancestor of Conan, Conan would be an ancestor of Solomon Kane. And like I said, there are some really interesting ideas, and here I think of it this way. Okay, you got to look at Howard according to his place in history, because there are some interesting and we'll say shocking development in thinking within early 1900s, especially in early 1900s America. So he's dealing with concepts like evolution for the first time that people don't have anything to know about. That's why so many of his characters evolve or devolve into monkeys and apes, or into human beings from said yetis, things like that. But he also is in the milieu of people thinking about history as a bloodline history, whereas memories are held within your blood. And I think that there is definitely, I think it's beyond the Black River or beyond the Black Coast, something like that, a definite connection between Conan and Solomon Kane. So that being said, my love for Conan is transmitted, as it were, backwards to Kull and forwards to Solomon Kane. I love the Solomon Kane stories. I agree. I don't think they get anywhere near as much respect as they should have. And that's probably because an idea of a Puritan going around destroying evil is not something people want today.
I read that believe it or not, that Howard's most famous character was like a sailor or something, like a modern sailor that I know nothing about. So I'm gonna look it up now while we're talking. But like he has a bunch of characters. You know,
He has a lot of boxing stories as well, which I never really got
oh,
into.
maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe a boxing sailor. Matt Boss says that stuff rocks. Yeah, Matt he likes this Conan stuff. Beyond the Black River is one of my favorite Conan stories. Yeah,
Yeah,
is
it's
it so, Steve? And if anybody's interested, I might as well put out a plug. If you go to Fund My Comic, there's a comic called The Atlantean, and it's a couple of friends of mine. They're doing Cull stories. You know,
yep, I have those books. I ordered those books from my comic.
Is it Sailor Steve Costigan? Is that who I'm thinking of? Thank you. Black Coat is the Blit story. Yep.
See, beyond the Black Coast, say there is a part within, I think it's when Solomon Kane is tracking down the Frenchman. I can't remember what story it's in. He's tracking down the Frenchman, and he goes basically, if I read the story correctly, into northern Africa in order to track him down and kill him. And then this Frenchman basically has these North Africans and like a tribal people protect him, and he's about to get sacrificed by them, and all of a sudden his blood recognizes a memory which he cannot place, and that memory is the memory of one of the scenes within a Conan story that takes place within the same general region of the world. That's the way I read those stories and how they are connected. And I think I firmly believe Howard intended for those connections to be made.
Yeah, cool. So this is the same. Crom is set in the same world with Thomas Valiant. So I don't know how many centuries later these sword wielding barbarians are superheroes, right?
Let's I have you're gonna challenge me here, John. Let me see. I might have this pulled up right away. We'll go backwards here. No, that's the wrong one. Although there is some more art. Let's stop sharing the screen and we'll go to the, let's see, stop sharing. And I just want to pull up another piece of art because the cover art explains a lot. Here we go. Crom the Destroyer. Give me 2 seconds. Here we have share the cover. Now, if you look on this cover, you'll notice that here's what I do with my logo, just to let everybody know if they haven't picked up on this yet or heard me talk about it. My logo here, which is designed by Nick X, we have timeline. Now, we have issue number 1, we got the costs, but we have the timeline. This way that no matter what I put out, people can read them according to the timeline wherein they exist within the same universe. So this story takes place over a large gap of time for reasons that are explained in the story between 4,901 BC to 2,520 and 2,552 BC. So we're talking about thousands and thousands of years before Thomas Valiant, but it still exists within the Thomas Valiant universe. And there are, like I said, a little bit of Easter eggs in there because there is a connection, a very slight connection with something within the Crom the Destroyer story that comes out in this book. And one of the other characters that has already appeared in the Valiant Heroes, which is Artemis, and she's also appearing Artemis and Cardinal, and they also appear in Thomas Valiant #1, the Valiant Heroes #1, and in Valiant Heroes Thomas Valiant #2, which we're producing right now, and the Artemis manga that we're producing right now as well.
Arkham, we already answered this, but any chance to get the black and white version?
Black and white version is not available right at this moment. If there is a call for it, I'll see if I can get anybody else on the list for the other version. The other version is magazine size, so there might be, I don't know. I don't want to push any more than I already have right now. I just want to get this thing out there right away. So who knows, Arkham? Right now, I don't see any call for it, but maybe in the future if we reprint. it might
He's
be.
an artist himself, so he wants to see the black and white line art and everything. Magazine size. Matt wants to make some sci-fi magazine stuff. I'm working on a story. Matt gave me. He's working on a story, and he gave me a topic. I felt like I was in school. It's like, this is your topic. Go write me a story. And by the time he was done explaining his idea, I was like, this is a great. And I was like, yeah. But I started writing it, and I realized they didn't have an ending. And then I was talking about it at work, and my foreman goes, yeah, this is the way it ends. And I got mad at him. I was like, you didn't get my story at all. And then I realized he's brilliant. He just solved my problem. So I started all over again. So there you go. Listen to people. Listen to people. I'll just steal it from John. There you go. You'll steal my copy. There's no theft. Right? No, there's no property. We're all communists here. No.
Well, I don't know, John. Closer you get to
Right.
the middle of New York, that might be true.
Listen to people, Matt tells me. Matt, yep, yeah. But it's funny because I'm telling the story, and then the foreman just goes, and I'm like, yeah, like I just don't know how to end it, but I got a good beginning, I got a good middle, but you need an ending. And he just said, I don't want to say it now, obviously. And I was like, look at him, like, are you even listening to me? And then I'm like, wait a minute, that's brilliant. So I had to start all over again. But it was a good ending. Oh, look at that.
There's some of the art that you will see on the Fun My Comic site. Just it's stuff that I haven't really shared around too much, but these are the few pages that go along with the extra stories that are already in print, or that the print versions of the stories. So one of the things I love about creating in this space is the ability to actually use different formats. So
So Zach Taylor, so Crom is before the flood?
Yes, it is.
The pre-diluvian. Antediluvian means afterwards.
Yeah. I'll just let me put it this way, okay? So I will see everybody in your chat and my chat as specialized customers, so I'll give them the inside baseball on this entire thing. It's something that will be developed over time, and hopefully if we get to do these stories more and more of them. So I'm not going to give anything away that's going to be too shocking. But the way that I view this world of Crom the Destroyer is sort of a combination of Conan the Barbarian and Song of Ice and Fire. It's basically you have a world which is very much controlled by monsters, so very much Marvel's Conan in its timeline. And then I thought to myself, take that up until classical period where you have like Heracles, and he's destroying the last of the monsters, the dragons and the Hydra and all these kinds of things. So I wanted to take it from point A to point B and see what would exist within that timeline. And I thought to myself, a very good insertion into that kind of timeline would be something like the Song of Ice and Fire. Not exactly the Song of Ice and Fire, but something like it. Because within the Howard mythology, the whole idea was that the Hyborian age was supposed to be ended by a cataclysmic event, which is basically an ice age. But I thought to myself, okay, well, what if that ice age wasn't natural? Because in the Song of Ice and Fire there is a very interesting let's say ice age, but it's not a natural phenomenon. So I thought to myself, okay, I wanted to take all of these elements and put them together in order to make a cohesive story of all the elements of the stories that I love. So yes, it's pre the flood, but that being said, in Howard's version, there is a flood way back in history, which is the flood in the time of Kull, and it leads up to the time of Conan. But anyways, there's a lot of interesting historical tidbits that I like to throw in. And again, these are all things that are coming from stories that are on the cusp of being, public domain and stuff like that. So I love to throw in Easter eggs.
Yeah. I when I get this, I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to reread Thomas Valiant and see if I catch all the little Easter eggs. I love that. I love that stuff.
This one is very hidden, very hidden. I mean, it's in plain sight, but I don't know if you're going to get it. Is the thing, but
You know
it'll
what?
be part of the story moving forward.
You know what's funny is because I in Heroic Tales 2, the Mary Sue story, I thought I was being so obvious that I almost rewrote the story to hide what happened. But so far, out of the reviews, only one person was able to articulate what happened. So I'm wondering, did I make it too difficult? Like what's his name? M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, when he was making The Sixth Sense, he said, he goes, it's just so obvious. People are going to get the twist. Like, he wanted to make it harder and harder. That's because he knew. You know what I mean? But how many people got fooled by The Sixth Sense, or like the last line, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, and you rewatch the movie. But, not that I'm comparing myself to that, but you know what I mean? Like, you put it in Easter egg and you're like, this is so obvious. People are going to, and then nobody gets it. So, how you doing? What keeps do? How's it going?
I completely agree, John. I think I never wanted to hold the hand of my reader, but at the same time, after my Thomas Valiant story was not understood, and I thought I was making it plain as the nose on my face about a lot of the things. And it's like, we'll make sure that the stories moving forward have a little more
Right.
depth to them, but not necessarily part of the main topic.
In Heroic Tales 3, it's gonna have the second part of the Mary Sue story. There's gonna be everybody's gonna understand. They're like, oh, okay. And then I'm writing a story called The Sleeper Agent, and I think it's obvious what happened, but one of the people like, oh, is this gonna happen? I was like, no. Oh, I was like, so then I had to reread the script. I'm like, it's so obvious. Don't you get it? So I'm wondering, am I being too vague, or am I just a bad writer? I don't know. I'm hoping people get it. Man, it's nerve wracking. Like you said, you don't want to just be super obvious, but you don't want to be so dense that people don't get it either. I guess I'm not there yet.
Can you throw up that last piece of art there?
Oh, sure.
One of the things that I wanted to do with Crom the Story World, again, it's very much in the Conan style. I love D&D and all that kind of stuff, but one of the things that I find, which is, well, D&D has to be in a world where you can repeat the monsters, and there's a certain kind of monster, and that's how you play the game, and makes it more relatable and continues on the story. But for the Conan world, it's very much this story. Everything's an aberration, basically, right? There's very few of these things that are going to exist as anything that is going to have a culture or a society to it, which is great. If you ask me, that way you get to make aberrations all the time, and you have something like this, right? Again, I love that fact about the Conan the Barbarian stories. It's something like you hit a new monster every week, and it could be something from almost the ancient times, or history that can never be told because it's so old, or the ancient West or the old West, right? You never know what you're going to get with Howard. So I love that fact. And one of the things, again, I tried to do with because I tried to insert sort of D&D style things into the monsters and stuff like that, even in Thomas Valiant, because Thomas Valiant is basically like 1/3 a gelatinous cube, right? But I love making these monsters and seeing what the artists come up with to express them.
I got to ask that, is this like a D&D monster, or is this just something you made up for the story?
Well, here, most of these things are, again, stories that I love, and I take and I riff off of them. This page, again, we'll go. This one is somewhat a D&D monster, but it's someone's interpretation of a D&D monster. Whereas we get basically sort of like undead hordes here, and for this is pure mythology coming out with this panel here. So you got a definite mix.
Because that bottom monster, like it looks like a mix between like a beholder and an Otague, if anybody knows their monster manual.
Yeah. So I'm, like I said, I'm not above trying to reach back to things that people love and that I love, and as long as I don't step on anybody's toes, I think we're good.
Unicorn Ultra Nationalist says, I love Howard, but it was always funny that when he tried to introduce ancient horrors, his imagination maxed out at giant frogs, snakes.
Oh, that's funny. Oh my. I'm sorry. I'm laughing too hard. Because I honestly, I can never remember the names of the stories when I really want to. The Red Citadel, when he basically descends in Conan basically descends into hell. I honestly think one of his scariest monsters, and I think that's the scariest story he ever wrote. I think that is scarier than most horror stories that I've ever read.
I gotta read that. You keep recommending it. I gotta read that. I only read one. I only read the first Conan story, and I liked it. I gotta get back.
But again, the one of the main monsters is a giant snake. One of the horrifying monsters, which is an aberration, is basically a giant toad. And then you have creepers and vines and things like that, which are just absolutely wicked. And then you have liches and things like that. But yes, giant toad. I think his description of the giant toad creature within the Red Citadel, if I remember the name of the story correctly, when he's descending into hell, that was one of the scariest things I had ever, read. That was making me sweat.
So you got to come over here. We got to break out this board game, right?
Well, that's the thing, because everybody says to me, do you play D&D, or how long ago did you know about D&D? But again, I never did this. I always wanted to do this. It's like, we had as kids, me and John, and if you're old enough to remember the times of the 1970s and 80s, like John and I, it's delayed gratification. Everything was delayed gratification, because you ran across something and then you couldn't, it was tantalizing. You couldn't access it until you were a certain age or things like that. But was the giant scorpion. There was a Conan the Barbarian D&D like game that you literally played with other people through the mail in the 1980s. So it had basically D&D rules, but it was in the world of Conan the Barbarian. And you're always like, I'm sure that most of these games that John has shown us are inspired by those kinds of things.
This you can't really see it, but this is a giant ape wearing a cape. So this must be an important ape.
It's one of the stories. Yes. I can't remember. Basically Conan gets trapped in a keep with a sorcerer, and he has this thing guarding it. It's a giant ape in a cape. I can't remember what the name of the story is again off the top of my head.
Looks like a frost giant with two axes.
That would be from the Frost Giant's tale, the Frost Giant's daughter tale.
And a bag full of furniture. There we go.
So Conan can smash them over people's heads. Yep. Although I gotta say, okay, I love Conan stories, and I wish that I could channel some more of Howard in a certain way, because I'm not very good with humor. People know this from me. I'm a little bit too logical and things like that, but I try my best at times. But Howard actually had some really funny parts within his story. The fact, I would just sit there and burst out laughing and not be able to stop. Like the fact that Conan, I remember this one scene. Conan is drunk and he's in the city, and people are after him, and he needs to flee. So in order to flee, he just takes off. And the thing is that he's too tall, and as he tries to go through the door, he's so drunk he actually knocks himself out in the door frame, because just runs straight into it, and then he gets captured. And I'm thinking to myself, I just burst out laughing in that scene. He described it so tellingly, and so much so that it takes you unaware. That's a really good writer, to take you unaware with comedy when comedy is not the usual point of the story. Is something that Howard was genius at for a certain low level.
I gotta say, comedy for me is, I think I'm a pretty funny guy in real life, but I can't write comedy. It's so tough. It's all timing. And I have an idea for a comedy Western, like no monsters, no vampires, anything, kind of like set right after the Civil War. And it's garbage. It's just not funny, and there's nothing worse than when you're trying to be funny and it's not funny. So nobody will ever see this story, but I'm not giving up on it. Maybe someday.
You know what's really funny too is the fact that, okay, I think Conan stories still have a lot of life left in them. I literally had someone here at my house about like 5 6 days ago, and he's basically what, in his early 20s, right? And he came in and he saw some of my Conan stories. He's like, "You got any more of these? Can I borrow them from you? I want to read something like this." Right? And he's like, I think these stories still have a lot of life left in them. Even the Howard ones, and I shouldn't say even the Howard ones, but starting from the Howard ones.
And they're not an easy read. I think if you're not used to reading, jumping into them is kind of rough. That first Conan story, and I'm a guy who reads constantly. I I didn't expect it to be as, you know, you're like, oh, these are pulps. These were written for like dumb working class guys back in the 1920s. But we forget that this was pre-TV, this was pre-radio. People read, so even a casual reader read some serious books, So I was like, whoa. I find H.G. Wells to be very easy to read. Why can't I think the guy who writes Tarzan, Burroughs? But like, I found Howard to be the most difficult, even harder than Lovecraft. At least
I think Howard is more in the vein of, like, say, something like Last of the Mohicans is actually, I would say Howard is the fantasy version of Last of the Mohicans. And
Okay.
that's a hard book to read. Unless, well, I say it's a hard book to read because it doesn't, like, writing has evolved. I hate using that word, but it has evolved over the years. The whole idea of show don't tell is something that is basically about maybe 75 years old. Prior to that, you got a whole lot of telling. You got to go back to something like Last of the Mohicans or things like that, and you do have it in. Well, of course, you have it in people like Anne Rice. They're able to do it, but I think Howard was also in that vein. He wasn't looking forward to, I want to be the next great thing, I want to move writing forward. He's more looking backwards and saying, I'm going to write like this. People that he read and that were, 50, 75, 100 years earlier than he was.
Yeah. And then you got guys like Lovecraft who tells you, but still doesn't tell you. That was, he didn't show you anything, and he told you a bunch of stuff, but you weren't sure if that's what you're actually seeing. RJ, my super chat didn't go through, but I was asking about those who backed Crom the Destroyer last time. Oh, I'm
Your
sorry.
book is on it. Well, when we get the entire thing, like I said, Dark Knight, I don't know if you're here for the first of the stream. My artist has given me the layouts for the last 8 pages. The colorist is working, the letterer is working, the editor is working, everybody's working, and the book will go out to everybody. You're still able, no, even though the campaign on Indiegogo is closed, if you did order through Indiegogo and you had a change of address since then, you can still change your address. As far as I know, that's still available on the Crom site because it's still up. You just can't order through it. If so, the books will be going out. If I have my way, again, I'm going to be working with a publisher and a distributor this time, not doing it myself. So we'll be a little more professional in those veins. But if I have my way, if I have any influence over the distributor, which the publisher and distributor are probably going to be the same, hoping to go with RJ Critical Blast.
I was going to ask you that. Are you going to go with RJ?
Yeah, we already had some light talks about what we want to do, but if I had my way, I would say everybody who ordered first gets their book before we go on to anybody else or new subscriptions. But I don't know if they're able to do that. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see. But you will be getting your book. You'll definitely be getting your book.
You are getting your book. It's just,
yes,
like you said, the artists had a couple of setbacks, and you had to switch artists a couple of times. These aren't excuses. These are just explanations. RJ is a good guy. I know we've been talking off camera for a while now. Nobody is hurting more than RJ about this. I could just tell it's wearing your soul down that these people aren't getting their books. But on the good side, you're getting some beautiful Nick Eck artwork. You know,
Here's the thing. I'll let everybody know. I'll give this explanation for everybody else. Okay. I have right now. So we have people working on the Crom Destroyer book, like a number of people working on it, trying to get it done so that we can get it out there. I have 5 other projects on the go right now, some of which are almost complete. But I will not put any of those books out until Crom the Destroyer ships out to everybody who ordered it. I will not, just to let everybody know. Okay, so that's why I'm keeping myself busy, and you haven't seen anything from me. It's not because I've abandoned everything or abandoned you with Crom the Destroyer. It's that I'm not going to put out another campaign while people are waiting for this book and have been waiting for it so long. So if there's any extra time, I put it towards Crom the Destroyer. If I have lax time, I put it towards my other books that people are working on.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything bad, but you're working to repair any whatever damage that is done. Yeah, I think it's if you are able to launch a campaign when the book is done or as close to completion as possible, luck favors the prepared is my new motto. Yeah, I can't wait. This is gonna be so good. And yeah, I've seen some of your other projects, and they're awesome. That artist that you have for Fade to Blue, that I'm really excited about that.
What was the name? I was trying to remember last week. The movie series that I was going for when I was talking about Fade to Blue last week. What the heck? I had it. I just had it. Oh, the vampire story. What the heck is it called? Anyways, if I come back to it, I'll let you know, John. I'll give you a little bit more art here from Crom the Destroyer. Just to we'll pull up stuff that I have shown on X before, but we'll give you a little bit more of a close-up preview of it. Again, here's Crom the Destroyer. We have our main character just fighting monsters because this is part of the storyline. Is there is a high. This, like I said, we looked at the cover, and it's the large period of time that it goes over for various reasons, which we get into in the book. But it goes from civilization descent backward into barbarism and a lot of monsters controlling what used to be civilized lands. So you got a lot of monster fighting going on here.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want. You want hot chicks. You want monsters.
Oh, you want hot chicks? We'll find some hot chicks for you here.
Yeah,
let me stop.
There's one that I love. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yep, I'll definitely. Let's see. I'll have to go through my pages, but there. We touched on the character before.
Are you talking about Vampire Blues Electric Boogaloo?
No, I'm not talking about that.
That was the vampires over at the roller disco. I love that one. It was funny because the irony of the vampires on the roller skates killing people to staying alive is just a cinematic masterpiece. Nobody thinks that's funny. Oh well. That's why my comedy comic is not going too well. Hot chicks, trucks, and dinosaurs. There you go. Trucks.
Night Stalker. That's
Night
it.
Stalker.
Night Stalker.
Kolchak the Night Stalker. Yes.
Yes. Kolchak the Night Stalker is what when I thought of Fade to Blue, I was watching a whole lot of Kolchak the Night Stalker. So that's kind of not really the theme that I'm going for, but more like the fact that Kolchak sort of moves around in America and encounters these weird things.
So, there you go. Yeah. I got to ask, does she have to turn her head sideways to get through the doorway?
Well, she's transforming, John. If you can see, someone had told me it's like the Sailor Moon transformation is taking place here, whereas she's turning into from one form to another. So I'll say that as she goes through the bars, that's when the helmet appears. After that,
cool. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think last time I saw that, I don't think I saw the background. I think I just saw the female figure.
Yes, definitely. And again, I have to thank Jim O'Reilly. I want to pull up Jim's version of that character if I have it. I think I have it here somewhere. But give me a minute or two to find it for.
Sure.
But Jim took that character and he said, you want to use this character? Like, I had a story in place, so kudos to Jim for so much that he has done to get this book off the ground, even though he wasn't able to contribute as much as he wanted to it. But he was able to contribute a lot to the design features that we had within the book, and so he is the one that I literally stopped writing the story at one point and said, okay, I love this character so much, she's going to become main part of the storyline, even though, you know, let's see.
Oh, so you expanded her based on
on Nick, on Jim's art. I expanded it on Jim's art. Why? Oh, that's why. And now I know why it's not working. Just give me a second. This is the character right here that you're probably the sketch that you're the sketch, and I'll say that again, that Jim did, yes, that you probably love.
Yes, I love that. I love the curly flame.
Yes. Again, that's the colorist. That's Jim and the colorist working. I think it's Ibrahim that did that coloring for that, but I'm not entirely sure. No, it wasn't Ibrahim. It was somebody else, because Jim had his own colorist work on the colorings for it because he worked with them before. I can't remember who it was. That was totally Jim that shipped that out, I think, to the coloring. Anyways, so yeah, that's one of my main characters. We got to talk about sexy women. So there you go, right there. Although she's not the only beautiful nor powerful woman in this entire thing.
It's funny, there's in that Conan game that I was just showing you, I can't find it, but there's a figurine of a woman in, like, you know, like a skimpy loincloth and like a little string top or whatever. And she's a prisoner. She's the princess, and you got to go rescue her. And it's funny because the rules say that she's treated like an object. So meaning she doesn't move, she's just trapped. And then when you carry her, since she's an object, you have to allocate, you know, you only have so many points for carrying things. So like you can't have too much equipment. And boy, did a lot of people got mad when the game came out. You see, the women are literally objects, you know. It's just so that the game can be played. You know, because either an object or a character, you know what I mean? So she's not a character. If she was a character, she would need to be saved. So I just had to laugh at that.
That's funny. One of the, let's say, lesser parts of Crom the Destroyer that I tried to put in. I love the game Ultima that I've told people about over and over again. And I tried to put a lot of things from Ultima in sort of background sort of noise. Excuse me. But that's one of the things from the game that I probably played the most, which would be Ultima 7 and Ultima 7 Part 2. But it was carrying bodies. You had to carry bodies, and how much weight that you could have within that system as well was something that I was able to break and hack basically in the game, which proved to be very fun. It was, I don't know if anybody else here even played Ultima 7 that's in the chat or is going to listen to my voice, but I wonder if anybody else did what I did, was the fact that there was also in that game basically robots or automatons, and you could only have 7 members to your party, but the thing was that you could have an automaton join your party, but when they were destroyed, they didn't drop from your party. It's because you could repair them with magic, basically. So what I did was I abandoned my entire party, got automatons to join my entire party, and then I would get them all killed, and then I would go get more automatons and then get them killed, and then kept on doing that until I had just a giant pile of these things, and then I just resurrected the entire group of them, and I had like 90 people in my party at once.
I played Ultima. I'm trying to remember which one I played. I never solved it, but I played it, and I just remember that you had to, you had to keep track of encumbrance and everything like that. And I got a whole bunch of rings, and I just remember taking the rings and trying to open doors, and it just got to be so fiddly that I ended up giving up.
That's why there was an expansion pack, John. For 7, So Ultima 7 started an expansion pack. I can't remember what it was. You went to something like the Isle of the Sword or something like that, which introduced elements wherein you had a key ring. So all you had to do was take your keys and put them on a key ring, and then all after that you just use the key ring, and you didn't have to sort through for your keys. There was also like a bag of holding and things like that that you could get.
Okay, because it comes to a point where it's just not fun.
Right.
You know, like I played a lot of D&D and like keeping track of arrows and stuff like that. Then I'd be like, no, you got too many. It got to be the point where it's just like it's just not fun anymore. Like, okay, you could carry more arrows, big deal.
That was one of the things about Ultima. I can't remember again. Anybody remembers playing Ultima 7, the Black Gate? I always loved the fact that there was a key. There were certain things you could get into and open, and certain things you could not. And there was a shed near the swamp that you could not get into. In order to get into it, you had to find a key. The key was in the swamp where you could get poisoned, and it was in a fish basically at the side of the swamp because someone had used it as some shiny bait or something like that. So you got the key off of this random fish in the middle of the swamp that was just sitting by some stagnant pool, and then you took it and you opened this door that was to a shed that you couldn't get in otherwise, and you got yourself a magical weapon, which at that point in the game was probably the most powerful thing that you could get, which is called the Hoe of Destruction. So it's literally a hoe.
I remember there was a forest, and it was just an empty forest, and I'm like, there's got to be something in this forest, and then lo and behold, there was like a person who lived there. And if you gave him food, he gave you something. Like I just would, play for hours, just going through these little forests, finding nothing. And then you get so excited. Oh, look, there's a like a hermit living out in the middle of nowhere, But yeah, I had fun, but I never solved it just because I was just like, because after a while you throw it away rings. I don't need this key anymore. And then you're like, oh man, I still need that key. Where did I leave it? And now I got to go through the whole continent looking for the stupid key. If I knew about that key ring, I probably would have kept playing.
What I did in that game, just to let you know, John. So there was basically a guard tower off of one of the cities, which had basically everybody slaughtered in it. So what I did was I basically cleaned out the guard tower and used it as my storehouse. So every time I would need something, I went and dropped it in the storehouse if I needed to put something somewhere and I wanted to figure out where it was.
Well, you're asking, Franz, that's the writer who is he the one that does like the Drizzt stories? I always wanted to read them, but
Drizzt Do'Urden? Yeah, I'm not sure. I've read Drizzt Do'Urden stories, but I don't remember the name of the guy. There's another picture of anybody wants beautiful women.
There you go.
This is the kind of stuff you'll get in your artist version if you are one of the people who backed that originally.
I don't want to tell you what to do, but once it's delivered, maybe open up a store on Fund My Comic, and let people get.
Well, that's the hope of this Fund My Comic storefront that we have right now. That's what it is. Basically, it's a storefront. We're going to use it to sell basically the stuff I have left over from the other campaigns to begin with, and then we'll see about putting up everything for deliveries that are going to be I'm trying to deal with different kind of publishers, and we'll see if print on demand publisher is a thing, and if it is, after we get rid of all of our backstock and fulfilled Crom the Destroyer, we're going to see if we can do print on demand for second printings of all the stuff that we have so far gone through.
Cool. Yeah, Drizzt. I always wanted to read them because I love Drow elves. And what is he? He's a good Drow elf. Is that the story? Are they good? I'd like to check them out.
The Drow are not good, but you know that more than I do. But the thing was that Drizzt, I can't remember why in the world he basically rebelled against his entire society. I don't remember. I never got into it from the very beginning. When I got into reading the books, he was already an established character, so I don't remember.
Right, and I remember Gary Gygax said a few times that Drow elves are evil because they're evil and they're not supposed to be player characters. And he says like he was, whenever they're playing and somebody be like, oh, my character was a good Drow elf. He goes, I bet because I met more good Drow elves than evil Drow elves when they're, because everybody plays against type. And I got to admit that we were 12 years old. I played a Drow elf too, but he was evil. He was an evil assassin. He was he got paid to kill people. But yeah, we all want to have the special character. I saw those Drow elves in that monster manual. I was like, that's what I want to play. My friend wanted to always play the half orcs. I was like, what's wrong with you? A half orc? Who wants to be a half orc?
Again, I can remember my. I think I told you this story before. I can remember one of the campaigns my brother was doing with his friends in our room, and I was listening to them. And one of the guys wanted to take kobolds for slaves and pets. My brother's like, no, you can't. Why can't I? And it's just like the whole big long argument got it.
That's so mean. Your brother just made you listen, and he wouldn't let you play.
Yeah. There's another panel of beautiful women.
Oh, there you go.
We'll say beautiful monsters. How's that?
Were they harpies?
These ones, there are harpies. These ones are the furies, the basic Irinias.
Be a full orc. Commit to the bit. I'm with you, Zach Tan. Here's a trivia question, RJ included. If you read Lord of the Rings, can anybody mention the half orc character? There is a half orc character by name. Yes, Salvador was giving us an oddity. Yes. The Drow are matriarchal, so we might have some incentive to rebel. Yep. So anybody in the chat, if you played Dungeons & Dragons, just out of curiosity, what did you play? What was your alignment? What was your character class? What was your race? And this is a good time because I'm going to be launching King Fu Christmas Special 2 and Patriarch number 1 and a couple of special top secret, super secret projects. If I ever get to $100,000, I will restate my stretch goal. Is RJ's coming to New York and he's going to. So who would you play, RJ? Would you be Crom the Destroyer or would you be Thomas Valiant? Because my goal is to have everybody playing as their characters, whether they're barbarians, wizards, cyberpunk, and I'll come up with a story for everybody to play their characters. Like Brian Bow will be Wolf and Batsy, Fabrizio will be Horse H. Hoover. Would you be Thomas Valiant or would you be Crom?
So we're talking about
in a role play
your heroes and villains game, not a pure D&D, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, probably be more of a Thomas Valiant type character.
You'd be Thomas Valiant? Okay.
But here's the funny thing. So for D&D, like I told you before, I always played most of the time I played a ranger. If, I was playing online games or whatever else, the standalone games for D&D on the computer, almost always played a ranger. Sometimes I played a paladin. So basically in Ultima, you play a paladin all the time anyways. But the funny thing was, I love these books and the Conan the Barbarian and stuff like that. My brother always played one of two things. He would always play a very high-end wizard or a barbarian that was just hack and slash, one or the other. There was no in between for him.
I tell you, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a wizard, but I was always unsatisfied with the rules for wizard. So, but as an adult, I'd be a paladin. What else is there? A guy in full armor with the holy sword just smiting people with love. That is awesome. That's all, a big war horse. Just, what I mean? Everybody in the town cheers him and, he is the law kind of thing. An elf magic user. Yeah, all my friends always wanted to be elf magic users. Here's a question for you. So Thomas Valiant is playing Dungeons & Dragons. What character would he play?
Oh, he'd most probably. It depends on whether or not you could play monsters. If you're playing classes, because like I said, the inspiration for Thomas Valiant is taking two different characters and smushing them together. But I smushed this one together with the third thing, and the two characters were Plastic Man. So sort of, we'll say a hybrid of Plastic Man and Mr. Fantastic, but also a Nomak character, and also a gelatinous cube. So that's the thing. But here, the thing is that who would Thomas Valiant play? Thomas Valiant would play the Paladin, no question. One of his heroes is Prince Valiant.
Okay, because in Patriarch number 2, his family is going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's going to be, you know, uh, I want to show more of the family life. Patriarch being a family man, you're going to see him and his family playing Dungeons and Dragons. So I kind of want to have Renzo draw some fantasy monsters and bows and arrows and stuff like that. You know, as they're talking about their characters, the next panel will be sword fights and everything like that. You know, I think that'll be fun. A human fighter longsword. That is the best thing to be in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep. Again, that's what my brother always played. If he was playing anything else besides mage.
An elf fighter, that's cool. A robot paladin, you're allowed to be robots now. I only played up to 2nd edition, and a goblin warlock. Oh, see, I mean, nowadays if I play, by default you start out as human. Usually by like your 3rd character, I'll let you be an elf, because elves in my world know secrets that I'm not just going to let the average player know right away. You know, I had a run around it because this one girl, she only played with us like 4 or 5 times. She just wanted to be a barbarian elf. So we ended up, she was just an elf that was like separated from everybody else. So that worked. So she didn't know the elf secrets. Those furries look beautiful, but they look difficult to keep happy. Have you read about the Erinys? You can't keep them happy. That's the whole thing of Greek mythology. Is it takes Apollo to be like, stop. What are they? The Eumenides, the kindly ones?
Yeah. No, you definitely got that right, John.
Yeah. Let's see. You got one backer so far. I'm refreshing it to see.
Like I said, this is just for those people who like. I do have Luke wanted me to set a goal, so I set the goal that I usually set, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and I say to everybody that's just there as a placeholder number because of the 4 virtues. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, okay.
So that's if I don't reach that mark, that's fine. You're still going to get your book. Don't you worry. That's just for people who said, is there a place I can still get the book at? I'm done with Indiegogo for now anyways. We still have something up there for Fade to Blue. But again, I think I want to move over and see how Fund My Comic works, and it seems to be working spectacular for me now. Thank you to the backer, whoever you are, if you're listening to this live stream. Thank you. Like I said, everything goes towards making your books better. I'm not making books in order to make myself rich by any means. I have my own source of money. So
we're doing just the opposite, RJ. We're making comics that are preventing us from being rich.
Yeah, definitely. It's a work of passion, let's say. But that's what I think people need these days.
Yeah. I'm happy to break even. That's pretty much what I've been doing, breaking even. You know. So to answer my trivia question, nobody guessed it. Bill Fernie, the owner of Bill the Pony, was a half orc, and the ruffians.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not get that.
Yeah, he was a half orc. He had orcish blood. Yeah.
Okay.
He had yellow eyes and pointed ears, and the way he's described, and they explicitly said that they thought that he had orcish blood in him. So he is the inspiration for the D&D class of the half orc, or the race of the half orc. I'm surprised you know who Bill Fernie is, because whenever I say that name, people are like, who?
Oh yeah, no, definitely from Bree,
right?
In the Prancing Pony. Basically, they sort of showed him in like half a second of a scene within the Lord of the Rings movies. He's basically hunched over a tankard of ale.
Right. The way they described him, I always thought of him as Scart Farkas from The Christmas Story. He had yellow eyes. What are my thoughts on Stephen Colbert tackling Lord of the Rings? All I could think of is after that guy dancing around with the vaccine and stuff like that, I'm just like, I don't want to look at that guy. I don't want to have anything to do with him. I will not give it the time of day. Yes, I know he likes the Lord of the Rings and everything, but like, so what? I like the Lord of the Rings too. That doesn't mean I should be writing Lord of the Rings. I don't want to have anything to do with him. I don't like him. I find him to be disingenuous. I find him to be basically a tool. You know, that whole working with pushing the vaccine and mocking people, and ivermectin is horse paste. Like, so he has no credibility as far as I'm concerned, and I want to have. I don't want to reward him by watching anything that he has to do. Yeah, I mean, I plus, like, why are they making up new stories about Eleanor? You know, like, there's a whole bunch of stories that are untold. I think one of the great stories to tell is Baron. Before he even met Luthen, he for years he had this group of rangers that would just he had nothing else to live for. He had 20 other humans, and they were just going through the haunted forests of Negreb or whatever, killing orcs. And he was so badass that Morgoth himself put a bounty on him. There you go. There's your movie. Why are they making up stuff? The next thing they're gonna make a movie about the Entwives, and then they're gonna be all girl bosses. You know what I mean? It's like they made a movie of the Ride of the Rohirrim, and then they made up Hera Hammerhand, and her father has one of the greatest stories of all of Tolkien, and they made up a new character to tell a story. So I didn't watch that. I'm not watching Rings of Power. I don't want to watch other people imagine their stuff in Tolkien. Tolkien is classic. It's timeless. And now Rings of Power has, like you said, that they're putting in tropes of right now, and they're limiting it to right now. So it's going to be dated in a couple of years. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
The funny thing is, I was just having a conversation with someone about this, about Tolkien and his inspiration for things. And it's always looking backwards, So a friend of mine, very much a history buff, much more than I have history degrees, and this guy knows way more than I do. But he was talking about how the Battle of the Rohirrim before the White City was inspired by literal historical events wherein the Polish, and they were supported by some Germans, were attacking Vienna, and it was basically the largest horse battle in all of history that we know of. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's an amazing piece of history that I didn't know that, right? And it's like, these are the Tolkien stories that he is inspired by to tell, and he's basically telling historical stories with a twist. So yeah, taking modern things and put them into it, you're going in the exact wrong direction if you want to interpret Tolkien and make something out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. So I'm happy to reread Tolkien. You know, I don't want to read some committee written script, you know, by people that don't recognize, because Tolkien himself said that Lord of the Rings that is a fundamentally Catholic book. So I don't want people that despise Christianity, despise Catholicism, you know, they want to make it for a modern audience, written by committee. You know, we all know Eleanor is going to be a girl boss. You know what I mean? Why are they telling this story out of all of the stories in Middle Earth that they could possibly tell? That making up a story for a character. All she did was she took the Red Book of West March and she protected it and she brought it over there. You know what I mean? It's all right. That's not nothing, but I guarantee she's going to fight monsters and she's going to whatever. I don't want to hear it.
Throw that up for a second, will you, John? Just to let.
I don't think they care about what Tolkien wrote. They see this vehicle. Yeah. They're spreading their message. Absolutely. Is this what you want me to? Okay.
Yeah, just to let everybody know. Even though I'm doing a barbarian story, I still have my virtues stuck in there in case you're looking at some of these lettered pages here. See, savagery falls at the feet of the prudent. So, you know.
There you go. I like the Crom the Destroyer up in the corner. Like, what was that? A stamped on the page?
Yeah, that's those are Nick's pages.
So what did he get, like a rubber stamp and put them on? Like,
I don't know exactly how Nick works, but he literally, because you have he has the page, he has the issue number, he has chapter number, all that kind of stuff, and then he has the bleed all around to make sure everything fits in within, you know, all of the page and all that kind
And
of
it's
stuff.
all on paper, right?
Again, I couldn't tell you how Nick works completely off the top of my head. I know he works with paper, but I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
I just wanted to throw that one up there because we have the mention of prudence here. I'm always talking about the virtues, and people are asking me, why are you doing a barbarian book? How is this going to be heroic? I always think of Conan the Barbarian as a hero. I'll go through this one more time for everybody. I always think of Conan the Barbarian as a hero because the very first story that Howard put out there was a story when Conan was an older king, and he was a lawful good king that was ready to sacrifice, which is the Red Citadel. Will sacrifice his life for his entire nation rather than abandon them to evil, tyrannical men. So, you know, I think of this as heroic stories.
Okay. Yeah. I gotta read more. I gotta read more. Like I said, only read the one. What do you think of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie?
I love the fact that it brought so many people, and still, like, literally, you want to go on YouTube and see people reacting to movies. One of them that they react to a lot is Conan the Barbarian. It brought a lot of people and still brings a lot of people into the Conan fold and shows them that it is something, an intellectual property worth pursuing and looking at and enjoying. That being said, it's not really Conan. It's something completely different. His origin story is not Conan's origin story, and nor is it follow the pattern of how he becomes a warrior, all these kinds of things. It just throws in a couple of tropes that would normally be covered within the stories.
Yeah, like I said, that was my first. So I love it, and I think the movie stands up. But yes, once I started reading Conan, I realized it's different. It's not even Cole. It's a completely different character. And I heard now that Schwarzenegger may or may not be doing King Conan, so he's going to be Old Man Conan. I think it's
God only knows.
Yeah, I think it's King Conan, and then he seduces the chambermaid and has a kid with the chambermaid, and his wife divorces him. No, just joking about Arnold Schwarzenegger's life. See, that's why my comedy book isn't good. What did you guys think of the D&D movie? I didn't like it the first time I watched it, but I find myself kind of thinking about it, and then I watched it the second time, and I liked it the second time. It didn't take itself too seriously, but that was my problem, because when me and my friends played, we wanted to play Lord of the Rings. We didn't want to play goofballs playing, murder hobo. So I've since learned that most people, they just played to have a goofy time. Me and my friends, when we were playing Dungeons & Dragons, it was like serious quests, and I don't know. We wanted to do Lord of the Rings. Is the only way to describe it. So when I saw that movie, I was like, oh, this is like how everybody else plays. So I wanted to see Lord of the Rings again with owl bears, but now I like it. Look at that.
Just more spectacular art thrown up in the background. Again, fighting monsters. We got a lot of fighting monsters in this book, although it's a side quest kind of thing a lot of the time.
I did not read the Titan Comp. I have them, but I'm missing a few issues. Once I get those few issues, I haven't bought any back issues in a long time. Once I get the back issues, I'll read them all.
I'm just going to go to John's house sometime in the future and spend a year there reading comics.
That's what Matt says. When I get my $100,000 stretch goal, Matt's one of the people who's going to come down. He goes, "Oh, I'm not playing your game. I'm just going to be sitting in your room looking at comics." Yeah, driving your enemies before you and hearing the lamentation. Yeah, it's a great line. It's a great line. Everybody quotes that line. What is the best in life? To defeat your enemies, have them driven before you. Have their cattle driven before you and hear the lamentations of their women. It's a great line. Yeah. My favorite with Conan was in the first Conan story, like you said, he's already the king, and he's talking, and somebody says to him that, the world is an illusion. And Conan just dismisses him. He goes, "Oh yeah, if the world is an illusion, then I'm an illusion too, and therefore everything's real to me. So I'm gonna take it seriously." And I thought that was really, really cool. So like whenever people say like, are we living in a simulation? It's just like, yeah, but I got to pay my mortgage. So, you know, telling the bank that we're living in a civilization doesn't change anything. So I'm going to take it seriously. Yeah, I love this.
I can't remember. It's been so long since I had this piece done. We had this done. I had this piece done even before I put out the first campaign. But the artist who did this, he worked on Ghost Rider at one point, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Oh, this isn't Jim O'Reilly?
No.
Okay, so this was the third artist?
Well, no, this wasn't the third artist. This was somebody else that I think Don Chin hooked me up with. Don and I were talking before we began the book, and he was encouraging me to go to the artists for ElfQuest that he knew.
Oh, the Peonies?
Yeah, and see if they wanted to do it. And he contacted them, and they said, "Nah, it's not really something that we would want to do." But that was a possibility at one point. We were looking at getting the ElfQuest people to actually do the entire book.
Oh, that would have been cool. It would have looked, I think, a little bit more cartoony for your taste, though, unless they have a different style.
Well, that's why I think they didn't want to go with it. It was that they're more used to a cartoony kind of look, or, God only knows, they could have just took a look at me and went, "No, thank you."
Well, they're super liberal. But did you ever read ElfQuest?
ElfQuest is one of those things that I would always try to get into, and I would pick up a book and I would read it and I'd go to myself, this is why I don't read ElfQuest. Kind of like Doctor Who. Every once in a while, I'd watch a Doctor Who episode going, I should really get into this. And then I'd watch an episode and go, this is why I'm not into this.
Yeah. What I do like about ElfQuest is they have an interesting take on the monsters. Like, they are elves, but they're not Tolkien elves. The only thing that they have in common with Tolkien elves is like the longevity. They'll live thousands of years unless they're killed. But, and then there's different types of elves, and then they're telepathic, and as they get older, they can mutate. Like, some of them develop wings. It was pretty cool, and they had some unique takes on the monsters. Nope, we don't do business with shields. So, anything you want to talk about? Because I'm gonna have to start getting ready. I'm working the midnight shift.
Yeah, John's going to wind down, or else he's going to electrocute himself while he's trying to work.
Well, I got to have some dinner, and then I got to go get gas and get off to work. It's like an hour drive.
I think we have reached the end of what I really wanted to talk about, and show some of the spectacular art for Crom the Destroyer. So just let everybody know that Crom the Destroyer is once again available for sale at Fund My Comic. I love this. Again, this is another sketch that Jim did, and then I did up the poster of Join the King's Army.
Cool. Yep. So go to Fund My Comic, get Crom the Destroyer. It's a streamline. You're gonna be shipping sooner rather than later. You only got, like you said, eight more pages for Nick to draw. And if anybody's watching this on RJ's channel, don't know me, you could go to Fund My Comic. While you're there, you could look up Heroic Tales, and I have 2 comics there. Everything available there. And I will be launching the King Fu Christmas special soon. It's a 16-page King Fu story, and then a 6-page Christmas magic story about the Kelly family. That's the patriarch's family, how they celebrate Christmas. So altogether, that's going to be 22 pages of stories with a letters page and stuff. It's going to be a short, quick, streamlined campaign. The only thing you can get is the comic, one add-on that I'm keeping secret, and then the King Fu hoodie, and that's it. If you want anything else, you go to the Heroic Tales 2 page to pick up anything. So that's all I got to say.
All right, that's like I said. Go to Fund My Comic. Marcus has been spamming out the link for Crom the Destroyer in the chat, and it's in the description as well. So anybody who wants to and hasn't ordered a copy yet of Crom the Destroyer, go on over to Fund My Comic from the link, and you can get yourself a copy right away. You'll get it as soon as we are done and shipping. It is a pre-order. It is still a pre-order, but we will be getting it to everybody, those who have backed before and those who back now.
So, before we go, we got one interesting question. Are there any barbarian heroes with receding hairlines? They all have such beautiful coifs. I don't know, but I think it's the blood. I think when you take an axe and you split up an enemy and the blood sprays into your face, it goes into the scalp. Try it, everybody. I think that keeps the hair going. What do you think, RJ?
I think that barbarian heroes are a manly fantasy, and manly fantasies do not involve going bald.
Yeah,
they just don't. They have long flowing. I'm like, literally, I'll have to say this. Okay, I would never, ever, ever have long hair like Crom the Destroyer or Conan the Barbarian. Just, I would not. I'm crew cut guy all the way. So just to let everybody know. But yes, it is the fantasy trope of long flowing hair.
I told you I for a short period of time I did have long hair, and I'm gonna abbreviate this story because some details it's not good to share with RJ here. But I was at a punk rock show, and it was a girl band, and some guy was messing with the girl band, and they like, there he is, that's that pervert again. So, and he jumped into the crowd, like, and then grabbed my long hair. So as the bouncers are grabbing him, pulling him out of the show, they're dragging me by my long hair. And then finally he just pulled it out and, was thrown out the door with like I was like, that's it. I cut my hair and I never let it grow long again.
Save your life, John. Cut your hair. Save your life.
Yeah, save my life. This is actually long for me. I gotta get a haircut maybe tomorrow. But anyway, there we go. The patriarch does not celebrate Kwanzaa. He is Roman Catholic. His wife is Greek Orthodox. I don't think there's room for Kwanzaa in those two. So thanks a lot, everybody. You want to take us out, RJ?
Well, thank you, everybody, once again, and thank you for showing up, and I'll see y'all later.
All right. I'll bring up this. Oh, I got to take this down. I'll bring up wrong thing. And we'll leave with your trailer.
Was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars, for out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled. Our heart has returned, and the world will